Tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tase bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening, everyone. We continue today with the rest of the Dhammasangani. Today, continuing with the Nivarana, isn't it? With the Nivarana Sampayutta, we finished. Now we come to, if you turn to the page on no Nivarana, Nivaraniya, right? In the Dhammasangani. No Nivarana, Nivarana Sampayutta. Right? Let me just yes, Devika.
Page 54, Bante.
54. Right?
Yeah.
Second part.
Yes.
No Nivarana, Nivarana Sampayutta Duka, which is page number 54. Here, we look at the Dhammas which are no Nivarana, Nivarana Sampayutta Dukkha. No Nivarana, which would mean that what are the Dhammas which are not hindrances but are associated with hindrances? What are the Dhammas which are not hindrances but are associated with hindrances? These would be no Nivarana, Nivarana Sampayutta. What are they? There are 12 Dhamma which are not hindrances but are associated with the hindrances. Associated with the hindrances because they arise together with the hindrances. What are they? The 12 akusala chittas, the 12 unwholesome chittas. And they are associated 19 chetasikas, excluding the 8 Dhammas which are hindrances. The second part of that, Dhammas which are neither hindrances nor associated with the hindrances. The second part of that dukkha, the first part looked at the hindrances which were not hindrances but are associated with the hindrances. The second part of that dukkha, Dhammas which are neither hindrances nor are associated with the hindrances. That would be the remaining 77 chittas, excluding the 12. The remaining 77 chittas, 89 minus 12, which are neither hindrances nor are associated with the hindrances, including the 77 Chitta Dhammas and their 38 Chaitasika Dhammas. Why? Because they are neither hindrances nor do they arise associating the hindrances. So these 77 Chitta Dhammas, they will never arise with the hindrances, nor are they hindrances themselves. 28 rupas and nibbana also falls into the second part. They are neither hindrances themselves, nor do they ever arise with the hindrances. That will be the second part. The Duka Muttaka in this section, the Duka Muttaka will be the 8 realities which are hindrances, right? They cannot be classified under the group which are, for example, the 8 hindrances that are included here. No other hindrances included in the second section. Hence, the hindrances, the Nivaranas themselves, become the Dukkha Muttaka in this section. The Dukkha Muttaka in this section, free of the Dukkha, right? Free of the Dukkha. The second part, or rather third part after that, we look at the Dhammas, Nivarana Nivarana objects of the hindrances. Dhammas which are objects of the hindrances, Nivarana Sampayutta, and are associated with the hindrances. Right? So, in the third category, Nivaraniya Dhammas which are objects of the hindrances and are associated with the hindrances, Nivarana Sampayutta. What would those Dhammas be? Objects of the hindrances and arise together with the hindrances, associated. The 12 akusala chittas are objects of the hindrances and are associated with the hindrances because they arise in the same moment that the hindrances would arise. They arise associating the hindrances, as we've done this earlier. Nivaraniya, Nivarana Sampayutta. The second part, Dhammas which are objects of the hindrances but are not associated with the hindrances. So here, we are not looking at the Dhammas which are associated. We are looking at objects which can be objects of hindrances, but they are not associated with the hindrances. So the hindrances, they can later on take these objects through the hindrances, but they will never arise with the hindrances themselves in a singular present mind. That would mean all the remaining Chitta Dhamma, 69 Chittas, are objects of the hindrances. So this is 89. We take away the Lokottara Chittas first. So then we have 81, the supramundane path consciousness. There are 4 there. The supramundane resultant consciousness, there are 4 there. So 89, you take away those 8 Lokottara Dhammas, path and fruit. You have 81. 81 minus 12, you take away the Dhammas which arise together with the hindrances, and remaining the 69 Dhammas you will have remaining, which are objects of the hindrances, but they are not associated with the hindrances. Together with 28 material components, 28 rupas, and Nibbana, which can be objects of the hindrances, but are not associated with hindrance. But is not associated with hindrance. In this section, we, in both these categories, we had to take out the 8 Lokottara Chittas. Because of this, The 8 Lokotara Chittas are free, Duka Muttaka, free of this dual division. Because Nivarana Niya, Nivarana Sampayutta, the 8 Lokotara Chittas are taken away, right? Because it does not associate. Because the 8 Lokotara Chittas cannot be taken as object by a mundane individual taking or thinking that they can take the path and fruit as object. They cannot, because path and fruit can only be taken as object from a pure state of mind. It cannot be taken as object by a mind of an hindrance. Padma, yes?
In the 3-2A, they have put Lokotara Kusala Chitta and Lokotara Vipaka Chitta in that category. I'm not sure whether I'm reading it correct, but they are not included, isn't it? I mean, when you calculate, they are not included. Because when you calculate, there's 17, that is 8 plus 5 is 13, plus Arupa Vachara is 4, that is 17. Other one is 17 plus another 15, that is 32. So I don't understand, I mean, why they have put Lokotara Kusala Chitta and Lokotara Vipaka Chitta there. It is...
Because Lokotara Kusala, this 69, there is no Magga and Phala. The 4 Magga and Phala, the 8 Lokotara is not included because it's 81 minus 12, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That I understand.
Yes.
But in that italics, there's Lokotara Kusala Chitta and Lokotara Vipaka Chitta there. That's what I couldn't understand. That one, yeah, where your browser is.
Parāmāsa, Rupa Vachara, Aruka.
Yeah, so that is 17. No, I couldn't understand it, why they have put it there.
Lokotara Vipaka Chitta. In this 32, the 8.
Yeah, 32 and 17 plus 15. Rootless resultants, rootless. But those two, no, I don't know why they have written it down there. I mean, when you calculate it, they are not included. You can see that.
Nivarana Sampayutta. කොහොමත් මෙන්න මේකේ 8 ලෝකෝත්තර චිත්තස් නැහැ.
ඒක තමයි නෑ නේද? ඒක දැන් දාලා තියෙන මොකද කියලා මම බැලුවේ. Maybe I don't know whether I can't understand.
There are also 28 ලෝකෝත්තර චිත්තස්. Why they have put it under here, isn't it?
Yeah. Under in that italics. That's what I was asking.
36.
Even in the ඉස්සලා 77 එක හරි. ඉස්සලා එකේ.
If it comes together with the Lokotara Vipaka, it becomes 36, not 32.
No, it has to be 36. So yeah, I had to add 4 to both of them. No?
Yeah,
so I don't know whether it's a mistake.
Included.
Yeah, it's not included. I can see that. Yeah.
It's
so
not
I don't. Maybe it's a. Yeah, I mean, I can't. Sort of a. I don't know whether.
Because Parāmāsa, Rupa Vachara, Arupa Vachara, Lokotara Vipaka Chitta, if it is included, it would be 36.
6. That's right. That's what I mean. In the calculation, they haven't included it, but they have written it down. So I didn't know why they have done it. But
where
maybe
have they written
just,
it down?
නෑ මේක මේ දාලා තියෙනවනේ මේ ඉටැලික්ස් වලින් ලෝකෝත්තර විපාක චිත්ත කියලා තියෙනවනේ එතන.
ලෝකෝත්තර විපාක මම හිතන්නේ මෙන්න මෙතන තියෙන වැරද්ද.
ඒ දෙක මත එක්ස්ක්ලූඩ් කරන්න.
Yeah, but in the calculation it is 69, so it is.
Yeah, calculation is correct. Yeah. It's just a minor with this thing, but I wasn't sure why.
They have used the word Lokotara here.
Yeah. ඒකයි මම කියන්නේ.
Okay. ඒක අපි හදාගෙන යන්න. And Nibbana, which cannot be classified either as Nivaraniya Cheva Dhamma. Hence, the 8 Lokotara Chittas and Nibbana. When this Nibbana is also not there. Is it? There are 8 Lokotara Dhamma associated with 36 Chetasika. And Nibbana, which cannot be classified either as Nivaraniya Cheva Dhamma, Nivarana Sampayuttacha, or Nivaraniya Cheva Dhamma, Nivarana Vipayuttacha, because it should be taken as Duka Muttaka. Because Nibbana cannot be taken as object by the mind which contains a hindrance at that moment. The fourth part. Nivaraniya Nivarana Duka. Nivaraniya Nivarana Duka. Dhamma, which are objects of hindrances and are also hindrances. Here we look at the Dhammas which they themselves can be the object of a hindrance. And they themselves are already hindrances. What are these Dhammas? There are 6 Dhammas which are objects of hindrances and are also hindrances. What are they? It comes down to Kama Chanda, Vyapada, Teenamidda, Uddhacha Kukkucha, Vichikicha, and Avijja. These 6 we know. These are the Dhammas which are the hindrances they themselves. So, they are hindrances they themselves, but they can also be the objects of hindrances. So a hindrance can take a hindrance as object and create another formation there, right? Create another formation there. Meaning a specific mind that was, for example, clinging to sensuous pleasures in this case, can be retaken as an object, let us say, by sensuous desire itself. Right? Sensuous desire takes as object the mind that was clinging, the hindrance. Right? The mind which was a hindrance, another mind takes as object. Right? And upon that hindrance, now the mind continues to proliferate there. However, this is only to say that these dhammas which are hindrances can also become the objects of hindrances. The second part of that dukkha, dhamma which are objects of hindrances but are not hindrances. Objects of hindrances but are not hindrances. This then comes down to the 81. All the chittas and chetasikas, apart from the Lokotara, you have here 81. 81 chittas, together with their 44 chetasikas and 28 rupa, become Dhamma, which are objects of hindrances, so they can be taken as object of a hindrance. So with a mind which has a hindrance within it, within this mind you can have any of these 81 chittas as object and 28 rupa. So based upon this object, the mind can have a hindrance. In this dukkha of Nivarana dukkha, you have to take away the 8 Lokotara chittas. Why? Again, path and fruit, magga phala, you have to take away from this calculation. Why? Because magga phala cannot be taken as object by a Nivarana. Meaning, when we are talking about enlightenment, which is what the 8 Lokotara consciousnesses are, this enlightenment cannot be reached by a mind that is soiled by the hindrances. So that is why when there's a hindrance in the mind, the conversation about whether or not the Lokotara chittas are there is not a valiant question, because to the mind that has or takes objects through the hindrances, such a mind does not touch the 8 Lokotara Chittas at all. Right? At all. Now, this brings us to the end of the Nivarana Gocchaka. Right? And we come on to the next Gocchaka, which is Oshiroma.
Bante, there was a little question on the Nivaraniya Nivarana section,
Mm-hmm.
where the objects of hindrances are the 6 or the 8, and object as well as the hindrance is the same. So I thought, how does it manifest without a chitta? අකුසල චිත්තයක් එන්න ඕනේ නේද එතන manifest වෙනකොට.
Yeah.
නැද්ද?
So here the Kama Chanda, Vyapada, Thinamidda, Uddhacha, Kukucha, Vichikicha, and Avijja are all dhammas that arise with the 12 unwholesome consciousnesses. Right? They arise with these dhammas. However, here we are talking about Dhamma, which are objects of the hindrances and are also hindrances. So when these Dhammas arise, they themselves are the hindrances, but through the complex of the rest of the Chittas or Chaitasikas that are supporting these 6 or 8 realities to arise, respectively, the hindrances are supported at that time. So when the Kama Chanda, for example, when the hindrance of Kama Chanda, that is the craving for sensuous pleasures, arise, it would arise as a Lobha Mula Chitta. Lobha Mula Chitta, greed-rooted consciousness.
ඒකත් දේවා නේද බන්ති? මෙතන
Sorry.
අකුසල චිත්තස් දාලා නෑනේ හැබැයි.
Akusala
They're saying-
Chitta දාන්න ඕනේ නෑනේ. You don't have to, you don't have to, in this
Because
case, you don't
the
have
other places,
yeah.
they put the 12 akusala chittas as sampayutta. නීවරණ sampayutta කියලා අකුසල 12 දානවනේ. නේද?
Nivarana. So when you say Nivarana Sampayutta, it is talking, Sampayutta means associated. When you say Nivarana Sampayutta, you are looking at what are the dhammas that arise associating the hindrance. So now you are looking at that association. There you will see the 12 akusala chittas there. However, when it comes to this section, for example, it is talking about the specific nivarana, the hindrance that arises to take another object. That arises to take another object. There, you're not talking or looking at the association per se. You're looking at what object is it taking. What object is it taking? That is what Nivarana Ni looks at. What object is it taking?
So the object and the hindrance both are the same.
The object,
And the hindrance.
dhammas which are objects of the hindrance and also hindrance.
Yeah, both.
Right? They can be the objects of the hindrance and they themselves are the hindrance. Right? So Kama Chanda taking, let us say, one of these hindrances, taking as object a hindrance that has just come to mind, an image or another chitta, or here in this case, any of the 81 chittas, 44 chetasikas to get associating those 81 chittas, and 28 rupas.
Right.
When they are taken as object.
So they have to manifest as the chittas. Yeah.
They will always arise as a part of chitta and chetasika.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, Parāmāsa Gocchaka. Parāmāsa Gocchaka. the cluster of dukkha's relating to Parāmāsa, misconceptions. Parāmāsa is a strong, wrong view, which one holds it firmly as truth. One who has this wrong view cannot attain jhana, magga, phala, and nibbana, just as a stump of a tree which cannot grow any longer. The first part of the Parāmāsa, now we are looking at what is a Parāmāsa or a misconception in the first place. What is it? Now we are looking at this or approaching this to see what are the ultimate realities. So Dhammas which are misconceptions, Parāmāsa Dhamma, would be Ditti, wrong view, is the Dhamma which is misconception. Wrong view, it arises in 4 Dittigata Sampayutta Lobha Mula Chittas. So we know we have 12 unwholesome types of consciousnesses. Out of these 12 unwholesome consciousnesses, we can divide those 12 into 8 greed-rooted, 2 hatred-rooted, and 2 delusion-rooted consciousnesses. Out of those 8 greed-rooted consciousnesses, we know we have 4 consciousnesses which are with wrong view and 4 without wrong view. Here, Parāmāsa Dhamma or Dhammas which are misconceptions, this occurs when any chitta which is associated with wrong view arises. So how many chittas can there be? 4. Because there are 4 consciousnesses which are associated with wrong view, the Dittigata Sampayutta Chittas. So those Dittigata Sampayutta Chittas is what causes Parāmāsa Dhamma, or which is a Parāmāsa Dhamma. Meaning when these views are in position in the mind, they cannot see the truth. Why? Because this state of mind is where an object sweeps or blinds the mind. How? Particularly with the wrong view. Particularly with wrong view. Let us say when you are attached to something and when the view, wrong view is what is keeping you attached in this instance. When this wrong view is persistent in the mind, it is difficult for one to see the truth behind, let us say, this cause of suffering or this cause of agitation. Why? Because of that blinding nature, right? Here, we attribute that blinding nature to this wrong view here, which keeps one away from the truth in the mind, that clarity. Why? Because of the existence of greed and this wrong view that is present here. Now, this Parāmāsa Duka, note, Sotapanna, the first path, which is the first path of stream entry, eliminates Ditti, Parāmāsa, eliminates Ditti, right? This is eliminated by the first path of the Sotapanna, that is the first part of enlightenment that you attain. It eliminates that Ditti, the ability to see further beyond the views, comes to become an ability of one who attains that first part fruition. The second part of this dukkha is Dhammas which are not misconceptions. No Parāmāsa Dhamma. Now the first one was Parāmāsa Dhamma. The second part is no Parāmāsa Dhamma, which is it is not. What are these Dhammas? 89 chittas. All in all, we have 89 chittas. So all 89 chittas and 51 chaitasikas excluding ditti. Excluding ditti is no Parāmāsa Dhamma. Right? Excluding ditti is no Parāmāsa Dhamma. Right? No Parāmāsa Dhamma. Why? Because in the first sense here, we saw ditti, wrong view, is the Dhamma, which is the misconception. This ditti, we know, is a chaitasika Dhamma, or a mental factor. This 51 chaitasikas here, excluding ditti. Ditti is a mental component. When this mental component is taken away, you have a situation which is no Parāmāsa Dhamma, which means when this ditti is no longer so, there will be no Parāmāsa. So all the remaining 89 chittas, 51 chaitasikas, 28 rupas and nibbana is all no Parāmāsa Dhamma. Because it is without ditti, you take away ditti. When that wrong view is not there, there is no misconception.
And there the akusala, all 12 is there though. No? Ditti Gata Sampayukta 4 is also included
Yeah,
there.
but however, not all akusala is headed by ditti.
Etanamana,
The other, when you take away the component of ditti, right, it is only the mental component of view that brings about Parāmāsa Dhamma. When view is not there, there is no Parāmāsa Dhamma. When the view is not there, when the view is isolated, there is no Parāmāsa Dhamma. So ditti is always that mental component that brings forth a view. Without that view, there is no Parāmāsa Dhamma. Okay?
So there is mana instead then.
Then the other akusala, whatever else is there, whatever else is present, however, ditti is not present.
So Lobha Mula Chitta with Ditti Sampayukta
Will not arise.
won't be there.
Will not be there.
But Lobha Mula Chitta with Mana will be there.
Yes. Right? However, all of those, now we don't see that the 4 dittigata sampayuttas are taken away here. Why? Because even those 4 chittas, without the ditti, there is nothing. So the force here, it's not the whole consciousness. It is one aspect of that consciousness. When that aspect of that consciousness is isolated, then that ditti no longer is present within the continuum. Right? Within the continuum. So even within, let us say, a akusala chitta itself, when that ditti is not present, that akusala chitta will work in other ways, but not with wrong view present there. Right? It may have other wrongs there, but not wrong view. Not wrong view. Right? Hence, saying that it is that particular mental component which is responsible for that attribute of wrong view that is present in that mind. When that is taken away, then the mind is free of that. No Parāmāsa Dhamma. No Parāmāsa Dhamma. The second part. Parāmatta Duka. Parāmatta here means objects of the misconceptions. So what are the dhammas which wrong view can take as object? All 81 mundane chittas, 28 rupas, can be taken as object by wrong view. Right? By wrong view. all mundane chittas can be taken as object by wrong view. Mundane, 81. Mundane chittas, 28 types of rupa can be taken as object by wrong view. Not that it always does, but it can be taken as object. Then the second part of that dukkha is aparamatta dukkha dhamma. Aparamatta dhammas which are not objects of the misconceptions, that would always then be the 8 path, magga and phala, 8, and nibbana, which becomes aparamatta dhamma, which are not objects of misconceptions, not objects of the misconceptions. The third part, Parāmāsa sampayutta dukkha. Parāmāsa sampayutta. Now, when you say Parāmāsa sampayutta, you're looking at the dhammas that arise together with this wrong view. Arise together. So when the wrong view arises, these dhammas arise together with it. What are those dhammas? What are those dhammas? We look at the 4 dhamma which are associated with misconceptions. These are the 4 ditthigata sappayutta chittas. The 4 types of consciousnesses, lobha moola, greed-rooted chittas that arise with wrong view. There are 4 lobha moola chittas, greed-rooted chittas that are associate wrong view. All those 4 chittas, together with their associated 20 chetasikas, mental factors, arise together with wrong view. Hence, it has to be Parāmāsa sampayutta, associated with wrong view there. Note, ditthiyata sampayutta lobha moola chitta, 4. Wrong view must be excluded because it cannot be associated with itself, which is a misconception. Meaning, ditti does not associate ditti. Ditti, view, wrong view, arises associating mana, conceit, and greed itself. However, ditti does not associate ditti, hence, wrong view ditti is vipayutta, not sampayutta. Because when the ditti arises, the ditti itself does not associate another ditti. The ditti arises supported by other classes of mental factors, not ditti itself. Hence, ditti is taken out. Hence, ditti there is taken out of that calculation. Udam Siri.
Yeah, Bhante, it's something like that because normally when you have Lobha Sangata Ditti Sampayutta, there are 21 chaitasikas.
Yes.
And because you can't include the Ditti Chaitasika,
Yes.
you remove 1 out of 21,
Yes.
and that's why it's become 20 Chaitasikas.
20 chaitasikas.
Yeah, okay.
Right? 20 chaitasikas,
yeah.
because the ditti does. Now, all the others associate ditti.
Yeah. Yeah.
But ditti does not associate ditti.
Yeah.
Because ditti stands there with the rest. No
Yeah.
other ditti they're supporting. Hence, ditti is taken out. Right?
Yeah.
So 21 chaitasikas would be the usual number associating the 4 ditthigata sampayutta
Yes.
becomes 20.
Yeah.
20.
Thank you,
The
Bhante.
second part, thank you, Jamsari. The second part, Parāmāsa Vipayutta Dhamma. Now, Parāmāsa, this is disassociating the Dittika Sampayutta, right? Disassociating the Ditti. There are 85 Dhammas which are not associated with misconceptions and are associated with 51 Chaitasikas, excluding Ditti. Which ones are they? Here, you have all of the Chittas and the Chaitasikas except the 4 Dittigata Sampayutta Chittas. Except the 4 Dittigata Sampayutta. So 89 minus 4. 89 minus 4, you end up with 85 Chittas. Right? Except what have you removed here? The 4 Dittigata Sampayutta Chittas. So 85 Dhammas which are not associated with misconceptions, 51 Chaitasikas, 28 Rupas and Nibbana are all Parāmāsa Vipayutta. These Dhammas do not arise associating Ditti views. Okay. When these Dhammas arise naturally, they are not associated with Ditti. Ditti. Duka Muttaka. Here, wrong view itself is Duka Muttaka. Right? Because we are looking at those Dhammas. One, Parāmāsa Sampayutta. There, the Ditti was excluded because Ditti does not associate Ditti. Parāmāsa Vipayutta, which is not associating Ditti, also took away Ditti. Because of that, within this Dukkha, you are not associating, or the taking or view is not present between those two. Hence, you will not see Ditti in this specific Dukkha. Right? Because you're looking at the Dhammas that are disassociating it. Right? Disassociating it. Notes. Parāmāsa, which is the Ditti Chaitasika, is excluded from both Parāmāsa Sampayutta Dhamma and Parāmāsa Vipayutta Dhamma. Sampayutta is associated, Vipayutta is not associated. Ditti is not Parāmāsa Sampayutta Dhamma because it is not associated with other Parāmāsa, which is Ditti. Ditti is a single Parāmāsa. Ditti is a single Parāmāsa. One single form entity. And Ditti is not Parāmāsa Vipayutta Dhamma too, because it is not associated with other realities in the Parāmāsa Vipayutta Dhamma. So wrong view comes down to this single Parāmāsa, which does not associate another Parāmāsa or associate with itself. It is only one single unit that causes that view to become a point in that consciousness step. Okay? Point in that consciousness step. The fourth one, Parāmāsa. So you are looking at Dhammas which are Parāmāsa, Parāmatta. That means objects. These Dhammas which are misconceptions as well as objects of misconceptions. What are they? Wrong view, Ditti itself is a Dhamma which is a misconception as well as object of misconception. Now, view does not associate view in the same consciousness because view is single Parāmāsa. However, view in the present mind can take as an object the view that was present before, or something which was already lived, or consciousness that has already appeared in the past. That can be taken as object by view. Hence, wrong view Ditti itself is the Dhamma which is a misconception, as well as object of misconception. It arises in 4 Ditthigata Sampayutta Lobha Mula Chittas associated with 21 Chaitasika. Associated with 21 Chaitasika. The second part. Dhamma which are objects of misconceptions but are not misconceptions. Dhammas which are objects of the misconceptions but are not misconceptions themselves. That would be the remaining 81 mundane chittas, 51 chaitasikas, and 28 rupa, which can be the objects of the misconceptions but are not misconceptions themselves. Objects of the misconceptions, but they are not misconceptions themselves. Do you have any questions you would like to ask? So in this Parāmāsa Parāmatta Duka, the 8 Lokottara Chittas are not included in both of them. Why? Because 8 Lokottara Chittas cannot be taken as object by a Parāmāsa mind, by wrong view. By wrong view. Any questions, anyone? Okay. Parāmāsa, Parāmatta Duka, wrong view in the first section. Wrong view itself, it arises in the 4 Ditthigata Sampayutta Chittas. Here, Ditti itself, right, can take another Ditthigata Sampayutta as object. On the second part, Dhammas which are objects of misconceptions but are not misconceptions themselves, what are they? They would be the 81 remaining chittas which can be taken as an object of misconception. Now, for example, you could have a beautiful mind, a kusala chitta that arises. This wholesome mind, the pureness of thought was present. There was purity in this moment. However, at a later moment, when this mind, upon recollection, this same beautiful moment, which was pure in nature, can be taken as object by a mind that is stained by wrong view. And because of that stain by the wrong view, now the beautiful memory that you hold in your mind, let us say, is now tainted. Tainted by what? Because tainted by wrong view, because that beautiful memory or that beautiful consciousness was taken as object by wrong view. Now, dependent upon this wrong view, now the object changes, isn't it? Because now you're analyzing the object through wrong view. Earlier, there was no wrong view present. Now you are analyzing or filtering the object through wrong view. So now the way that you remember the object might differ or change. Why? Because you're taking that object here, 81 Dhammas, Chittas, means that you can take any good, any bad, you can run it through the sieve of wrong view, hence altering the way that we remember this particular object. Hence altering the way that we remember this particular object. And then 28 rupas are also there. Any physical materiality can be taken by the mind, by view, as object. Because of this materiality, 28 materialities, based upon the mind now taking any of these materiality components through the sieve of wrong view, now you remember that materiality through a speck of wrong view. Right? In this, the Duka Muttaka, or free from this Duka, always remains. The 8 Lokottara Chittas, why is that? Because the 8 Lokottara Chittas can never be experienced by a mind that is tainted by a hindrance such as wrong view. It is in the clarity of vision and mind that enlightenment becomes part of the scope. not in a mind tainted by the hindrances. Hence, that is Duka Muttaka, you can see, along with Nibbana. Then the fifth section, Parāmāsa Vippayutta Parāmatta Duka. Parāmāsa Vippayutta means now it has two Dhamma which are not associated with misconceptions. And yet are objects of Parāmatta, and yet are objects of misconceptions. Because it says Dhammas which are not associated with the misconceptions, here you have to take all the chittas which are, number one, mundane, number two, not associated with ditti. Hence, you see, the dittigata vippayutta loba mula chittas are attributed present. So 81 mundane chittas minus 4. 4. 4 dittigata sampayutta chittas. There you get 77 chittas there. 81 mundane chittas minus 4 consciousnesses associated with wrong view. Because of this, you end up with 77 types of consciousnesses. That 77 types of consciousnesses that are associated, that are not associated with misconceptions, ditti, but they can very well be objects of misconceptions, objects of wrong view, right? 28 rupa, so 77 chittas, 51 associated chetasikas, excluding ditti itself. Excuse me. And the 28 rupas, 28 materiality factors, are all dhammas which are not associated with misconceptions and yet are objects of misconceptions. The second part, dhammas which are neither associated with misconceptions nor objects of misconceptions. They are not associated with view, neither are they objects of view. So what? In other words, what is a dhamma which is untouched, unaffected by view? That would be the 8 supramundane consciousnesses which one sees or attains path through. And Nibbana. This is the only position where we find that view does not affect, when the mind is able to let go of all view. All view. Here in the Duka Muttaka, we find 4 dittikata sampayutta, lobha mula chittas are not seen here. Why? Because they are excluded in this whole section. Hence, the 4 dittigata sampayutta chittas, along with their associated 21 chaitasikas, are excluded from both parts of this dukkha. Hence, it is dukkha muttaka, or these chittas are free from this dukkha. Free from this dukkha. Free from this dukkha. Now, in the commentaries, there gives a couple of other combinations of the dukkha in the commentaries, which has also been mentioned in the book. The first one, no Parāmāsa Parāmatta dukkha. No Parāmāsa. They are not Parāmāsa, they are not ditti. However, they are the objects of view. What would these dhammas be? All 81 mundane chittas, the associated 51 chaitasikas and 28 rupas are dhammas which are not misconceptions, but are objects of misconceptions. They are not misconceptions, but they are the objects. So 81 mundane chittas, 50, sorry, excuse me, 51 chaitasikas excluding ditti, and 28 rupas are dhammas which are not misconceptions, but are objects of misconceptions. The second part, dhamma which are neither misconceptions, so they are not misconceptions, nor they objects of misconceptions. That would be the 8 lokotara chittas, 4 magga, 4 phala, and nibbana. Duka Muttaka in this category becomes wrong view itself because it is disassociated. It is wrong view that we are looking at. Hence, wrong view is not available on both of those parts. We're looking at those which are not associated with it. The second part. Parāmāsa sampayutta. Parāmāsa, objects of misconceptions. Parāmāsa sampayutta and are associated with the misconceptions. Parāmāsa sampayutta. So very easy. 4 ditthigata sampayutta lobha-moola chittas. The greed-rooted chittas that are associated with the lobha-moola chittas. With the lobha-moola chittas. There are 4, and that is exactly the dhamma which is objects of misconception and are associated with the misconceptions themselves. The second part. Dhammas which are objects of misconceptions but are not associated by the misconceptions. That would mean 81 minus 4 equals 77. 81 mundane chittas. You take away the 4 consciousnesses associated with view. There you end up with 77 types of consciousnesses, which is not touched by wrong view, right? However, they are objects of wrong view. They can become objects of wrong view, right? 28 rupas. Here, Duka Muttaka in this section becomes the 8 lokotara chittas. The 8 lokotara chittas. The third part, Parāmāsa, they are objects of the misconceptions. Parāmāsa, they are misconceptions themselves. Again, what can that be? The 4 ditthigata sampayutta lobha-moola chittas. Lobha-moola chittas. The second part, dhammas which are objects of misconception, but are not misconception. Objects of misconception, but are not misconceptions. Objects of misconception, but are not misconceptions. That would be all the mundane, 81 mundane chittas and chetasikas. Right? 81, all of them, except ditti, chaitasikas. So 51 chaitasikas in all, together with 28 rupas, which are all objects of misconceptions. However, they are not misconceptions themselves. They're only objects of misconceptions. So when, as an object, they can be isolated from the misconception or the chaitasika of misconception, then the object will be free of that misconception. Okay? Meaning, object plus ditti, then you isolate the ditti from the object, Now the object will be pure again, and the ditti which made the object impure will be isolated. So the whole object is not impure, it is only the ditti there which makes it impure through view. Through view. Now, in this section again, we find that the 8 Lokotara Chittas, because they are not 8 Lokotara Chittas and Nibbana is not taken, cannot be taken as object by view, they are not included in this section. They are not included in this section. So that brings us to the end of this particular Gocchaka, which is to do with the Parāmāsa or the view. All right? View. So next week, we will continue. Yes, Damsere.
Bhante, is there any reason why they call it Parāmāsa instead of Mitadish?
Sorry?
Because they call it Parāmāsa.
Yes.
But when it comes to the Paramattha Dhamma, it's Ditti. So the reason why I don't understand, maybe it is because of this Parāmāsa are all linked to the well-known Mityadishti, which is Shastruta and Ucheda.
Yes, that is why. Because it is linked to the Labata Parāmāsa, that Parāmāsa, Damsiri. It is relating to the sort of Parāmāsa that would arise. Parāmāsa කියන්නේ contagion එකක් කියන එකනේ. Contagion. Contagion. Because the word in the Pali English dictionary, the word Parāmāsa would be, Parāmāsa means touching, second, handling, and third, a contagion. A contagion. So as a contagion, what Parāmāsa accomplishes is affecting the object with view. Hence it is called a Parāmāsa. As a contagion, spoiling, affecting. Now, something can be beautiful, but because of view, let us say view, that beauty might be destroyed. Or that beauty or something other than, apart from what it is beautiful for, some sort of worldview is taken or held in accord. That is a Parāmāsa, a contagion. Right? That is why it is called. So in this regard, it is talking about, in this Gocchaka that we have just finished, we are relating to all of those contagion factors. Now here the contagion factor is ditti, view itself.
Yeah.
Okay. Hare.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Bhante. Yeah.
Okay. So for today, everyone, we have now finished this Parāmāsa Gocchaka. And next week, we will continue with the Mahantara Duka, right, of the Dhammasangani. And I will leave you with those parts to revise and to go over in your personal time. And thank you, everyone. And I will see you on Wednesday. Teruvan Saranai.
Teruvan Saranai.